Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Beneath Vancouver Radio, episode number 66. Four away from the big
66.
7-0. 66, Chris, 66. Four away from the big 7-0. A big thank you again to everyone who's been tuning in. I know October was a little bit of a lull, took a little bit of a break, kind of regrouped a little bit, got a couple of more guests lined up, including the one that I'm speaking with today, the wonderful Chris Hobbs from TTT Studios. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing perfect. And honestly, Aaron, I've been looking so forward to doing this with you for a long time now.
Same here, same here. And I'm hoping that these next kind of 30 to 40 minutes are going to be exciting, also filled with little nuggets of knowledge for our guests. But I'll start the episode, as I'm sure the audience knows, kind of the first question that I lead up with here. Chris, who are you today?
Who I am, brother of David, father of Kai and Sela. No, Chris Hobbs, founder and president of TTT Studios. We're local. If you're in Vancouver, we are local. And Canada, if you're in Mars. We are a local development shop focusing on solving business problems through technology. And we've got a great team of incredibly talented people who, get to push the limits as to technology and, following lots of business frameworks to create amazing products that people, we hope people want to leverage at the end of the day and utilize.
I love it. I love it. So I guess we'll start off with that a little bit more. Obviously, as you said, founder of TTT Studios. Let's kind of rewind a little bit. I'm cheating a
Mhm.
little bit, so I know a little already about the backstory. But for those who don't, can you share a little bit more insight as to how you found it, who you found it with, and kind of where the idea even stemmed from?
Fantastic. Yeah. So TTT Studios, prior to the TTT, I was with, which I founded with my handsome twin brother, David, and the amazingly talented Josephine Wong. Prior to that, I was actually just traveling the world. I had my own startup that I'd done with my brother in the real estate education space, which allowed me to travel the world. And so since my kids were 1 year old, every 6 months we'd be gone for 6 months of the year, and we'd be either in Africa or South America or Asia, and just see the world. And then my daughter Sela, as amazing as she is, she had to start kindergarten, so realized, well, I guess I should probably get stuck to a city now. And that's when I spoke to David and Josephine and said, hey, let's found a company, especially because the iOS store just opened up, or the app store for Apple just opened up, and we realized, hey, we can create some really cool experiences through this. And it was brand new, and it was dying and begging for us to help create these really cool applications. So I said, okay, now that my daughter's stuck in town, let's found a company. We actually called it Two Tall Totems. We got a little bit more corporate when I brought in a CEO who suggested that we call us TTT Studios. As you could probably guess, I'm not the most corporate person on earth. But with that said, I recognize the value in, making sure that everyone is comfortable with the name. And it's a lot easier to say, though I don't know. Half the people call us TTT. The other app calls us Triple T. I listen to both. Just don't call me David. That's the only thing I can say.
Not to be confused exactly with your twin brother, David.
Handsome
You
twin
met
brother. Come on, Aaron.
handsome. Sorry,
Handsome
sorry,
twin
sorry,
brother.
David.
Thank
If you're
you.
listening, I apologize. Handsome, handsome. Can't forget that. Um, in regards to obviously the idea behind it and understanding, as you just mentioned, the opportunity that was available there with the iOS or App Store opening up. How has that kind of transitioned into, like, throughout the experiences that you've had? What certain opportunities have you seen of, maybe this is something that we can jump on, especially maybe now with the whole transition to remote work, a lot more
Mhm.
people working, as I said, remotely, online, a lot more communication online. How has the last, I guess, what are we now, a year and a half, almost 2 years? How's that transition in terms of, what TTT is, or how they approach business?
Sure. Well, it's allowed us to be a lot more across Canada in terms of our staff. So
Right.
our original limitation was that we have a really good culture. We have a nice office. So hey, why not everyone be together. And personally, if it was my way, it would still be that way. I'm an old guy, right? I love traditions. But at the end of the day, we recognize, we're in the thought business, wherever people's minds are. That's what, the physicality of the situation isn't really that required.
Hmm.
So we've been a lot more across Canada. I think we have like 10 or 12 people in Ontario alone now, and quite a few in Edmonton and some in the Maritimes. And, so that's allowed us to be a little bit more free in terms of the employment opportunities with the TTT family. I put 4 T's in there to be extra confusing, but I guess that's the TTT team. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, because of what we do, the location it's been a little bit superfluous. Also, a lot of our clients, they're American based anyhow. So, as long as we have the tools and the processes that allow us to collaborate in a really, really, without skipping a beat, to how we would typically do it together.
Hmm.
It works just fine. And in fact, I would even say that the first discovery we did when COVID hit, we do these discoveries, which was around project ideation. We use like Google X/IDEOs frameworks around understanding a problem and its users and the business needs, the technical needs required in order to solve those with smattering and butter of business needs too. And the first time we did it with Miro, where we did it remote, I realized, okay, you know what? As much as I thought this was going to be a challenge, it was actually great. And even, should we all be within the same walls when we do discoveries next, I think we'll still be doing Miro as if we were not beside each other either way. So does it work? Yes. Do I like it? I'm a hugger, COVID free. I'm a hugger. So what can I say?
No, that's right. And I think a lot of businesses sort of realize that transition as well, right? And understand the importance of a little bit of both, right? But at the same time, when you put so much effort and you're so proud as well of like the culture that the company has, being able to maximize that, not just for your end, but also for the employees, right? And understanding that when they're happy, they're probably going to be outputting good work as well. So I'm sure that there's some relevance and kind of correlation in that regards as well. So
For sure.
I guess actually I even fast tracked maybe a little bit here, because I think for a lot of the times, one of the number one questions or kind of the inquiries that I get at least is when people listen to the podcast is, great guest, great guest. I love the origin story. When you mentioned starting the company with Josephine and your handsome brother, David,
Thank you.
in regards to the actual obstacles, the tribulations, the ups and the downs, being in business for, if I'm mistaken, a little over 10 years now. I'm correct, right, on that? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Exactly. So what's been, when you started that and you started the business and, there's no blueprint per se, but one can argue that it's a lot easier now. There's a lot less obstacles, whether it be financial or access to potential customers, et cetera. What has been kind of what were, I should say, the biggest obstacles that you had to overcome, not just as the president, but also, as you said, as the founder of the company?
Oh, sure. I mean, the biggest one is that, my kids love eating. That was definitely one of the biggest challenges, in the sense of that, I didn't even draw a salary for the first, none of the founders did for probably more on 2 years. Which I think a lot of people should really understand. Like, if you're going to set things up right, you have to be prepared in order to go the long run.
Right.
In terms of success, you also have to recognize that, if you're hiring people, you need to pay them or they walk away. So you have to have not only a great trust and relationship with your co-founders, but also with their partners to make sure that everyone understands what we're getting involved in. Because it is a belt tightening time, for sure. And, so we definitely recognize that. I mean, I was really lucky because, both my brother and I and Josephine have amazing partners in life to help support us. But also, at least in David's and my state, we already had another business that we had prior that it didn't require me to be that, I had other salary to draw from, especially in a business that was actually virtual, and it didn't really matter. Like I would actually say that my real estate education software might be a perfect business because I work on it 1 minute a year, not even emails. And, it pulls in a salary enough to be at least comfortable. So I would definitely say, before you jump into something like this, recognize the challenges in terms of, how you're going to pay yourself, and come up with alternative alternative plans that will allow you to be comfortable without realizing, hey, I've swallowed too much. Especially if you have a family. Because, again, kids love food. I mean, my son, my gosh, can he eat? So you really do have to recognize that you have to take care of yourselves first, but also you have to take care of your employees. So you have to have that culture set up, the processes set up, the belief and the trust in each other set up in order to be ready to be successful first.
And did your previous experience with like your other business, the real estate one, did that kind of help set that up? Because all the advice which you're giving is great, but I think another question that people might follow up to that is, where do I even look to, like in terms of how do I set this up, or where can I not necessarily mimic, because obviously each business is different and the culture is different, and things, different situations for different businesses. But where did you, if at all, look in terms of maybe going in that direction, that company seems to be doing it right?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I dropped out of grad school to do my first startup, and that's just been in my soul. And I think it's in certain people you meet over the years, you're going, okay, they'll never work for, air quotes here for the listeners, the man.
Right.
It's they're going to be able to steer their own boat no matter what. I couldn't imagine working for anyone else. In fact, I think I'm the least employable person in the whole company. Like, who the hell would want to employ me, right? But prior to TTT and my real estate play, I mean, I actually did a startup with my brother. Like I said, when I dropped out of grad school, and that was the best learnings of my life. I mean, I was the president of the UBC Ski Club, which was fun because I can't ski. I don't like snow. And, I leveraged the relationships that I've created through that. It was a great club. There was a lot of, let's just say, a lot of social stuff going on, so the leverage, the learnings that I got through that organization at university or at UBC. We flipped that into a startup actually with my brother during the .com years called liftpasses.com. And that's where I really kind of cut my teeth on, how challenging business can really be, how daunting it can be in terms of paying yourself. And, we survived enough to close up that shop when I realized we couldn't do it anymore, during that when the .com bust happened. But once you get the taste for it and you recognize the challenges that come with not a steady paycheck, but you buy into it and believe in it, at that point you can do it. But I didn't have kids. I didn't have a wife. I didn't have anything but myself at that time. It's easier to crawl back. But I say, if you're in a place that you understand what you're going to get into, and you have at least enough income to pay rent for, say, 6 months, roll the dice and do it. You've only got one chance. And who knows, maybe it'll be like me, that you get bitten by the bug and you meet the right people throughout life and you recognize that, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to create value through my own journeys and my own adventures. I don't want to do it for other people. You can't, I don't care about the money. Like, it's weird. I'm like a Marxist Leninist business person, which is, again, least employable person there is in the room. Right. But at the end of the day, I just want to create this big journey and adventure for a lot of people where we create great things together. I mean, I can't see it on the wall, but we have our vision for TTT, which is we create software that impacts 1 billion lives. And we chose that as our raison d'etre because if you want to look at business transactionally, it's just that. It's done, you're done, right? Like, okay, great. So I'm pumping gas. I don't want to pump gas. I want to be the person that brings the gas in and then thinks, well, you know what? We can do it. We can create an environmental gas that's 5% better this way and more boom. And then, you know what? Let's just plug in the car anyhow. Like, I want to think of things that's going to create value on a much more impactful level.
I love it. And I think one thing that you mentioned that will definitely resonate with a lot of, in terms of like the people that listen to this podcast, they're around, young adults, 18, 19, all the way up to 24, 25 is kind of the key demographic. And I've gotten already a few kind of questions, or when people are unsure and they listen to an episode and a guest resonates with they said, the aspect of taking that risk. And if you have, for lack of a better word, not money responsibilities, such as, trying to feed a family or many bills to pay or whatever the case might be, and you want to try that, new business idea or new venture, I think what you just mentioned will hopefully push people to that kind of realization and understand, like, yeah, it might go wrong, it might go well, you never know, but at least you've tried it. And as you said, if it goes well, you're going to get that itch and that bite, and you're just going to continue to develop and and attract people within your circle. Like I'm sure you did as well. Amazing people to work alongside with to steer the boat, as you said. So I'm sure people will be happy to hear that from someone like yourself. That taking that risk, even as you did a couple of years ago, and stuff like that. So it's important to come to terms with that as a person. I wanted to ask you, I've seen, your experiences that you've had with either public speaking events or going to speak at conferences. I think actually, I don't know if you're going personally, but I saw recently on LinkedIn that there is an event at UBC in person that I believe you guys are attending, right? So
I'm speaking tomorrow.
Exactly. There you go.
I'm looking forward to it. I love the UBC events. I love university events. It's my favorite. It's my favorite.
That was going to be a question that I had for you. Is like, what do you see like in terms of the future generations? Like when you go to these, obviously due to COVID, most of them in the last year and a half have been virtual, if not canceled. But now that in-person events are starting to pick up a little bit, what's like the number one thing that you enjoy when you go to these things, whether it be talking to the students, hearing their stories, etc.?
Yeah, no, it's just meeting them. It's just meeting them and creating long-term relationships. Like the thing that I'm most proud of is that I will meet a student and then 3 years or 2 years later, they've applied for a co-op job and actually reference that we had this conversation over the years. But really, it's just meeting students. I mean, I have a strong relationship with UBC. I mean, I was there for way too many years, but way too many years. But I also recognize the talent that comes through universities and also the vision and the ideas that aren't hammered or aren't preoccupied with other things. Like, I mean, you can actually have a really, really, really good conversation with someone who might not understand the negative side of what they want to do, and you can pollute them with that negative side. But I love to hear the optimistic side, and you have that optimism with youth. That's such a beautiful thing. And it needs to be tempered. It obviously needs to be tempered, and that's why I always recommend that you do speak to old guys like myself or old individuals who've been through the rat race a couple of times. And
Chris.
Experience, lovely. I'm not as gray haired as much as I'm bald, anyhow. But you know what? I mean, I just love the fact that you can have these conversations. People are really excited to talk to me, and I think they're actually really surprised that I'm super excited to talk to them.
Right.
But it's true. And I mean, I actually spoke. I was in Lisbon last week for Web Summit, and I got to speak at one of those events. And as much fun as that is, I like the student events so much more, just because of the pure excitement that that people have in their eyes and hearts when you get to chat with them.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that they're surprised that you're excited to speak with them as well. Because I remember, I was a student not too long ago, and I'd go to these like either networking events or just events in general, and speaking with whether it be the president or the VP of whatever department, etc. And you go up and you're like thinking like, oh, they probably don't even care. Like they've probably seen 100 faces today. I'm just another face to that kind of to that list. But, not everyone, but for the most part, the people that I've had communication with, they're as energetic, as excited. They ask probing questions to really understand more about who you are and what you hope to achieve with that conversation. And sometimes you even get a little shocked. You're just like, oh no, I just came here just trying to make sure that at least I tried out this conversation with you. Right. And then I know sometimes you get put on the spot, but that's where I think the connections and, as you said, the long-term relationships really start to build and form is from those experiences, and not just oh, okay, hello, goodbye kind of thing. And as you said, not transactional. That's important.
Completely.
That's important.
Completely. As I mean, I say this a lot in my podcast, Aaron, but I truly mean it, is that, in the Lord of the Rings, no one did it for the money. They were a company of adventurers that were there for the journey, and they meet people on the way. And that's how I see business. Is that, hey, you know what? We can create amazing things on the way, but I want to meet, from old wizards like myself to young gelflings on the way, because the journey can be so much richer with everyone's different experiences, point of views, and perspectives to color the road that we travel together.
Yeah, exactly. And, my listeners might not believe this, but I've actually never watched fully Lord of the Rings. I only know the characters. So I'm sure that that particular analogy is very appropriate. I'm sure my listeners are probably like, what's this guy, Lord of the Rings? They've probably just tuned off right now. But to make sure that they
I'm
tune
thinking about
in.
walking away, but I'm thinking
Yeah, I
about
was gonna
walking
say,
away.
Chris,
Whatever, man.
you've got to stay though. You've got to stay.
Okay, yeah, I gotta
Um,
stay. Okay, need the nerd cred back up. Okay.
for someone who's in tech, and I think I wouldn't be doing a very good job hosting this podcast if I didn't ask you this question, and you might have you might not have an answer to this just yet, but obviously Web 3.0, Metaverse, whatever the heck the buzzword of the day is, or the week, or whatever. I feel like every day is a different kind of thing.
Completely.
With Facebook changing their name to Meta now, a lot of different things kind of coming into the space. What is your not necessarily? Yeah, I'm kind of interested to maybe hear your insight a little bit more as to how that transition to, again, Web 3.0, not just from a company perspective, but just kind of maybe your thoughts as well as to where that potentially could take the direction of just this tech space in general.
Sure. Well, I mean, in the metaverse side of things, we're still missing one big part of the equation. We're starting to get there, but really, I don't like the headsets. They're hard on my
Yeah,
eyes.
neither do I.
They don't really work.
I get dizzy.
Yeah, but exactly. But you see the better form factor ones, which is the glass ones, which are nothing more than just kind of glasses over top. And I mean, I read today about how Apple's going to be, they just filed a whole bunch of patents around how the control will be done through the watch, and control their keep everything within their universe, but also maximize the experience because of it. I'm excited about it. Not so sure I want one company to own it, and that obviously won't happen. I mean, is Meta or whatever wants to say, hey, that's our thing. Well, it's everyone else's thing too. And especially when you have these decentralized applications. We're going to talk about, Web 3.0 as well, where you can have it. So, you leveraging smart contracts and blockchain and all that to actually start, removing from a centralized database or a centralized framework and start, building rules that are trusted, and information that's trusted in ways that we really don't even understand now. I think that's all really, really exciting. I don't know if I'll be the people building it though. Like I think, and this is maybe why I go back to, saying why I love being around university students. I think it's those who aren't hampered by Web 1.0 and 2.0 for that matter, and the limitations for it. Are going to be that much better at jumping to the next one. I mean, it's like I spent a lot of time in Africa, for example, right? And people say, "Oh, there's a lot of challenges in Africa." And yeah, there sure is, but there's also a major opportunity, which is called lack of infrastructure. And because of lack of infrastructure, they can actually skip a lot of the the old ways of doing things and jump right into the new ways. So there is a lot of opportunity in places like Africa or South America that do lack infrastructure. Well, I think, Web 3.0 is a very similar thing. And also, what, as I said, Africa, look to places like that because they could be doing Web 3.0 before we even do it because of that decentralized approach to things. I mean, it's kind of funny. I mean, I was talking to Sunil Sharma, who's when I was in Lisbon, he's one of the hosts of Web Summit, and as well, he's I guess the main squeeze for what's it called? I can't think of the name of the group all of a sudden, but it's like one of those incubators, Techstars or whatever it is, and anyhow, it's interesting to see how much he's investing in Africa, where traditionally his market of focus was in Canada. I met a bunch of the startups that he's funding through his group that are all in Africa, and I think that's really interesting. And he was telling me how much he thinks that the future is going to come from that. So the Web 3.0 and all that, think about people that aren't handcuffed from current technologies or current limitations, and where do they want to go in a much faster way. I mean, business at the end of the day is all about, and technology is a great way to leverage this, but business at the end of the day, what wins is someone who can figure out how to get there faster or better or with one less step. So I think what you want to think about all the time is how you can optimize the journey. And, infrastructure is a limitation to that journey. It's also it's a positive thing because you have to run on that infrastructure. But if you have too much old infrastructure, then that limits where you can take it.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm new. I mean, for me personally, obviously, from I would say like the consumer's perspective, it's all very like kind of it's almost mind-boggling to a sense, right? I think you see all these kind of different things, and the implementation of AR, VR, all kind of different technologies, and you start to realize, like, is this actually going to be something that sticks, right? Or is this just kind of like a hot little fad and then that's it, right? I think one can argue that a thing that's potentially just coming down off its pretty hype up summer, early fall was like NFTs, right? And that whole kind of wave of everyone and their mother was like owning an NFT or was trying to make an NFT collection and stuff like that. And now it's starting to become a little bit more of, okay, how can we actually utilize this and not just make it a profile picture on Discord or Twitter or something like that, as where most NFTs are right now, just kind of profile picture related. So I think the future is very, it's going to be very interesting in the next, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus decade years, however long. But I think at the same time, as you mentioned, it's understanding that there's going to be different utilizations for these technologies and these kind of new innovations, and different people will potentially get to it first or be able to apply it faster than certain aspects of the world.
Yeah.
So
And one of the big enablers that's going to come out of that too, and I think it's, people don't really understand the true power of where it's going to be. Everyone hears the buzzword of 5G, but when it's true 5G, like right now, it's just marketed 5G. That's LTE, on steroids. And I'm using quotes again
the phone thing.
Yeah, it's nothing. But when you have true 5G and that becomes, again, the infrastructure that you're building on, and just the pure, not only speed, but the like speed of data transfer, but also the real time, just the real time speeds upon which things can interact. It's going to change things. Like, that is what's really going to change things. And unfortunately, we just don't have the infrastructure ready for it. I really wish that some government would step in and go, that's not 5G. Stop calling it 5G. That's 4.5. But the day that we get that, that's when things are going to get interesting.
Okay. And when do you think, just out of curiosity, when do you think that day will be? Like in the next year, 2 years? 3 years down the road?
Sometime between tomorrow and 15 years from now.
Okay, it's a big gap.
Yeah. I'm gonna bet on that. I'll be okay. pretty happy. Well, and if it doesn't, I'll pay you $50 in 15 years. Okay.
You guys heard it here first. The date is November 11th, November 16th, 2021. So if he doesn't pay me in 15, or that doesn't happen in 15 years, I'm $50 richer. Probably the worth of that dollar by then might not be as high, but we'll see.
Well, I'll give you an NFT. How about that? We'll NFT this video right here.
All proceeds go to my $50 payout. Exactly.
Wonderful. We'll make this fungible.
Exactly, Chris. As well, like, I did want to kind of go over this because I think it's an important aspect is to kind of who you are and how you perceive yourself online as well. As you mentioned, you have your own podcast, Afternoon Tea. From the episodes that you've done, and for those who don't know, kind of focuses on obviously chatting with local kind of business people or thought leaders in the kind of tech space, etc. Some great guests have been on that podcast episode. What has been the one thing that you've learned about yourself as your experience as a podcast host?
Sure. I mean, first off, that I'm amazed that people even want to chat with me. That's the first thing. And let me backtrack, because after I dig it. You get some great people on your show, and I'm always impressed. I'm actually a big time listener. But what Afternoon Tea is, just to let me kind of frame it a little bit, is I speak to Canada's successful entrepreneurs in order to prepare that next generation of startups. But the one learning that I have is I definitely only have founders on the show, never CEOs. And I've had some amazing CEOs that make me go, wow, I didn't even know you were possibly leading these large organizations. And no, I don't want you on the show because you're going to bore me. Because I want people that are going to say things that, that make me go, yeah, wow, I would have said that too. You know what? Don't be safe. I want people to learn from unfiltered reality. And not from safe, because safe at the end of the day isn't going to get you where you need to go. I think you need to have good advice. And so I like that. I mean, the other thing that I've learned is that, Aaron, I've only got 2 skills in life. I've got 2 very useless skills in life. Okay. The first is I can organize people to, together to go in the same direction. And the second is I can blah, blah. And the ability and the chance for me to blah, blah with such interesting people and help reflect their story. And, even that I just get to, flavor it a little bit by putting it as part of my journey with them is amazing. And I love every second of it.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to put you on the spot here real quick. Out of everyone so far, what's been kind of like the one thing, whether it be piece of advice or something that has really resonated with you from the guests that you might want to share maybe with the listeners here, aside from the unfiltered kind of reality?
Okay, let me think. I mean, there's been some very good guests. I mean, Kim Kaplan, founder of Snack app, she's been fantastic because I don't know anyone that's better at product, at really understanding a product, and
Hmm.
also just an understanding how to raise capital. Like she does it better than anyone. She could have raised $50 million in 2 minutes just based on who she is, and to learn. Some of the tips, as well as the fact that she wanted to keep things in Canada. So she raises
Mm.
money in the States to get the valuation, but she keeps 1/3 of the issues in Canada. So they have to buy in at that American rate, but they get the chance to buy in. And I
Mm.
love the fact that she does that to kind of keep it, to keep it at home. Because at the end of the day, what we really want to do and what we're doing in the ecosystem is trying to create value, so that people don't have to go to the Valley anymore, that they can actually do things in Canada, be Toronto, Canada, Vancouver, wherever. But, if you can have enough exits where that becomes a big thing, and we are getting there. I mean, oh gosh, we are getting there. Well, I think
Hmm.
that's a really, really, really good lesson. I mean, I had my last podcast, and that should be going out on Thursday. The advice that comes out on that one, which was interesting, was people like boring software. So find something in business that's really boring, and you can make software and a business out of it. And you know what? He's right.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not so
true.
sure I want to go that route, but he's right. It's good advice. You know what? Everyone wants to jump on sexy. No one wants boring, right? But boring pays
Yeah.
the bills at the end of the day. Accounting software is great. People need it. And actually, one other theme that I've always come across here is don't build technology for the sake of technology. Build it that has a reason. Because
Hmm.
if you build something that you think is cool, it might be good for a game, but it's not really solving someone's problem who's going to pay for it. So focus on the individual, focus on the need, and focus on the technology that's going to help solve that need. And make sure if you're not the person that can do that, that you find people that help you, make that happen.
Exactly. No, that's, I think for a lot of people, it's understanding kind of, at the end of the day, you're solving a problem, right? That's what businesses are about, with giving that problem solution through a product or soft, whatever the case might be. But at the end of the day, you're trying to ease a pain point for the customer in their lives, and help make that easier for themselves. So
And can I say one thing as well? Is
yeah.
sometimes it's not even a product. I mean, we had this great client. They make light bulbs, kind of spooky light bulbs in a way. Like, has cameras in it with AI facial recognition.
Oh,
So, when
okay.
your daughter's boyfriend shows up, it sends you notifications. But they're originally from China. And what they did when they came to North America, and they invested heavily here, hundreds of millions of dollars to bring their products here. All they did with the onboarding is they just took the Chinese write up of how to get a light bulb on your network and flipped in English and said good enough. And they're trying to figure out why they're getting 85% returns, right? So what we
Mm,
did is we actually did a relatively small engagement to understand the user, understand the problem, and then say, yeah, we don't need to redo the software. This is so simple. We just need to do the onboarding of the software, and they only had
yeah.
10% returns after that. Like, I mean, the amount of value you create from just a small engagement like that could be great too. So you don't have to be thinking, hey, what big software project do I do? Sometimes it's
Mhm.
not even that. It's really about understanding the user and their needs, and then making the small little steps improves the journey for them.
There you go. That's what the bottom line
There we
is, right?
go.
Understanding your user. You guys heard it here
Completely.
first.
Hmm, hmm.
Wonderful nugget of information and knowledge from Chris. Unfortunately, we are nearing the end of our episode here, and I did want to ask.
Boo.
I know, right?
Hmm,
Boo.
hmm. Boo.
I did. I did want to ask one final question before the final. I guess so. The pre-final
Okay.
question,
Hmm,
and
hmm.
what that was. I wanted to get your insight on kind of, and you touched upon it a little bit when you spoke about Kim, and kind of keeping people locally within Canada, and not, having them to go out to the valley and stuff like that. But where do you see kind of the Vancouver tech space, I think, grow in the next, couple of years? There's been companies like Clio. I mean,
Hmm.
Dapper Labs on obviously the
Dapper
NFT
Labs.
kind of, that kind of side. There's obviously a lot of companies that I'm sure people might not even know that are local. You'd be surprised sometimes where you see head office located. I'm like, oh, okay. But from your experience and from your point of view, where do you kind of see the tech space kind of going into or
Oh,
grow on Vancouver?
it's only getting better in Vancouver. I mean, last I heard, this year alone, we've had 13 unicorns pop up. 13. Like, can you imagine that? And when you take that into like considerations of other even cities in the States, they don't have anything
Hmm.
close to that. Like I saw Seoul 5. Take that into consideration. Now, some of them are really, kind of like, again, boring technology, and I mean that in a loving way, like geo. Oh gosh, what were they called?
GeoComply?
Geocomply. Thank you. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, they own the compliance around online gambling in the States. Like, you think that's a pretty big piece of the pie? Now, it's not exciting things. It's about making sure that people aren't spoofing their location
Hmm.
and all that, and following all the rules. But that's a multi-billion-dollar company because of something simple like that.
Yeah.
So will there be a lot more? It seems like 2 pop up a week half the time. So I think that this is just going to grow more and more and more, especially as we have the people who've done the exits now start to realize that they have to work their capital, because
Hmm.
they can give it up to the tax person, they can build super big houses, but these are not the type of people that do that. These are the type of people that want to make amazing products. I've spoken to a lot of them, and I think because of that, they're going to be not only helping, with capital, but also they're going to be helping, with you on your journey. Because I know so many of them are so happy, just like I am, to talk to students and talk to the startup types. They want to leverage their roller deck, if that's such a thing anymore, their contact list, and help the next generation, become that much bigger and that much greater, so that we keep more value in Vancouver and in Canada at that.
Yeah, I think it's very exciting times, and as I said earlier, I'm very looking forward to kind of see who else pops up, and yeah, the amazing
Mhm.
things that people just kind of need to look a little bit further. I think everyone thinks like, oh, Vancouver, it's just kind of like nothing's really going on here, like business wise. Everyone, Toronto is the hub and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So, yeah, there's definitely some big companies out here. You just kind of maybe have to sift through everything else, but. Without further ado, unfortunately, as I said earlier, we are nearing the end of our episode, and we always kind of finish the end here with the ultimate question, I guess, or the some people like it, some people don't, depending on how you want to take it. But and that question is, what piece of advice would you give to your younger self, Chris? Whether it's
Mm.
yesterday, or 5 years or 10 years, whatever the timeline might be, that's up to your discretion. But what piece of advice would you give to your younger self, and why?
Yeah, well, that's easy. I mean, I'm pretty dogmatic about doing what I want to do and what I think should happen. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, with the flavors of my wife and family, going to help that. But I would just say to the younger self, if you think it's the right thing to do it. I mean, most critics are those who failed in the industry. So if they're just going to be negative and hold you back, I mean, listen to what the reasonings are. But if you don't believe in
Right.
it, don't worry about it. Just fly the direction you think you're going to fly, and but do it with a big vision. Like, don't do it thinking, okay, I'm going to create something small and tidy, a first base. Think about many first bases along the way of this bigger vision of what you're going to create.
Hmm. Flap the wings. Just go kind of take
Flap
that leap.
those wings, man. There you go.
Just
There you
gotta soar.
go.
You just gotta fly. I like it, Chris. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. You do have around 30 seconds. You can take as long as you want, but 30 seconds to do any shout outs, plugs that you want to do. Where can people find you? Go for it. The stage is yours.
Sure. I mean, I was just going to do a gangster rap in French. How about? But the reality is you know what? If you're interested in what we do, we're always looking for engineers and designers and people that just want to make a difference, even on the business side. So if you're interested, reach out to me directly. Go to ttt.studio. There's no .com. We're that sophisticated, and try to find out about the great stuff we're doing, because we are working with some large clients, just like the American Medical Association, Unity, all these great clients, and you know what? We want to create value together. So if you want to be on that journey, let's do it together, baby. Woo woo.
Sounds good. I'll make sure to put your podcast as well. You didn't shout that out, but I'll make sure to add that as well in the description, down below for the YouTube, and also for just the podcast description if you're listening through audio. So thank you again, Chris. I really do appreciate you taking the time. And to all the listeners, hopefully you've enjoyed today's episode. If you tune in, this won't be posted until after the UBC event. But if you're from UBC and you spoke to Chris, this is all their other stuff that he does as well. And thank you for finding him through my podcast. But make sure to stay up to date with everything TTT related, and Chris as well. I'll make sure to put is your LinkedIn okay as kind of as
my
a way
LinkedIn? Yeah.
Yep.
Link in
Sounds
with
good.
me, baby.
Sounds good. I'll put that down below as well. Thank you again, everyone. This was episode number 66 of Beneath Vancouver Radio. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Whoop, whoop.